This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Rick, I don't know if you saw me on the board there, but I'm here too. Bill Burns.
Oh yeah, Professor Bill. All right.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Len.
All right. So we'll. I think I've written everybody down. If I haven't, you're. Oh, look,
Whoa!
Sylvester!
Would you look at that?
Hello, Sylvester! Oh, that's wonderful. All right.
Looking good, brother.
Congratulations on your new technology, Mr. Mann. That's wonderful. It's lovely to see your face.
However, we can't hear you. Are you muted? Is he muted, Jake?
It doesn't appear to be.
No?
No, you're somehow or other, Sylvester, your microphone isn't working. Oh, now it is.
I didn't know I was supposed to click on that.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Here you go.
Yeah.
Now we can hear you. So when you click on that, we hear you. And if you click on it, if you want to mute yourself, you just click on that again.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me now.
We sure can.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure. All right. So let me read who I've got here, and then we'll also figure out who is new. And the gentleman who just put on your video, Ramjet 711, how should we refer to you, sir?
You can call me Roger. I thought I was supposed to put an anonymous name in, but it's Roger.
That's fine. You can be anonymous, you can be not anonymous. It's totally your call, 100%. So let me just see who we have on here. These are the names that I see, and if I missed anybody, please let me know. Jake, Rich Jackson, Carl Foreman, Dennis Correa, John Appler, Ken Anderson, Les Shelderer, Michael Salakar, Paul Frieda, Roger, Tom Schaefer, Len Sierra, Jim Ward, Paul Lingain, Hiram Goodman, Jeff Marchi, Sylvester Mann, and Bill Burhans. Is there anybody else who's on the call whose name I did not read out? Okay. Looks like I got everybody. So welcome everybody. I should just tell those who are joining us for the first time that we do record this conference, this support group, and we post it on our website and on our YouTube channel, usually within 24 hours, sometimes sooner. And so people who cannot attend can listen to the call. We tell you all up front, just in case you have any issues doing that, and if it does inhibit your participation, you can just let me know so that I'm sensitive to it. But we will continue to record only because we get anywhere from 15 to 50 people every week that like to pick up the information that we discuss on this call and listen to it later. And also people who are on the call and want to go back and re-listen. Before I should also tell you that the way we normally operate, and we will tonight, is that we allocate some time to people that have never been on the call before. And depending on how many there are, it depends on how long we give you, but we usually spend about the first hour or so talking to people and then the last hour or so responding to questions that people might have who are regular listeners or return listeners. But before we start today, I just would like to ask Len, let's see, is Bill Franklin on the call yet? No, I think he may join us later because I know that he wants to talk about something too. But Len, who's on our board, we'll just give you a quick few words on this conference that I mentioned to Paul Frieda in Fort Myers on March the 2nd, that he and Bill will be attending, and we will have a table. Len, can you just tell the guys on the call who might be close enough to come in what's going on there?
Absolutely, Rick. So March 2nd, a Saturday in Fort Myers, Florida. It's on the west coast of Florida, southwest coast. Prostate Cancer International, part of which is the new prostate cancer info link that I'm sure most of you know about. They are sponsoring a conference called Prostate Cancer Today. They do this every year. It's subtitled Living Well, Choosing Wisely. They've got a number of great speakers, one of which is Ellie Van Allen, who's given us a talk about the prostate cancer, metastatic prostate cancer project, you may remember, some months ago. So there are general sessions and breakout sessions and panel discussions. Just quickly, I'll go through a list of topics here. They have radiation comparisons. All the different types of radiation will be compared. Dealing with side effects, sexuality and intimacy, genetics and genomics, imaging for prostate cancer recurrence, cannabis and treatment side effects, oligometastatic prostate cancer, Provenge and immunotherapy, chemo, risk versus benefit. So it's got something for everybody. And if it's at all possible for you to, any of you to attend, please do. It's, they say it's free, although they recommend a $25 donation if you can afford it, but you don't need to contribute anything. So once again, that's Saturday, March 2nd, and it's an all-day conference. I believe it starts at 9 a.m., goes to about 5 or 6.
Thank you, Len. And Len, we should add that we have a table, right?
Yes, we have a table. Bill Franklin and I will be manning the table. And I'm going to be serving as a moderator in some capacity. Jan Mannerite, who's organizing the conference, hasn't made that exactly clear to me what I'll be doing, but that's part of the deal, how we got the table for free. Otherwise, we would have had to pay $1,000.
Whoa. It's funny, that's what I said, James. Exactly the same thing. Anyway, so I encourage you, I mean, I don't think it's that far, and I don't know who is even in the area, but if you can make it, you'll get to meet Len and Bill in person, which it's probably worth the price of admission, whatever you decide to pay them. So, okay, well,
Rick,
yes.
Roger just, excuse me, just posted something in the chat box. Can we get recordings or slides from this conference? Actually, I do not know at this time. Do you, Rick?
I don't, but maybe you can follow up with Jan and find out what will be available afterwards.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Hey, Len. Rich Jackson.
Yes, Rich.
Hi, Rich.
This is the same conference that we had in October here in Chesapeake,
Correct.
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
That's right, yes.
They had the handouts from the conference, but there was not specific recordings that I was aware of afterwards. But they might update that for this. But
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
And Rich, what was your experience with the conference?
it was good information. It's, as you mentioned, it was everything from newly diagnosed to recurrence and advanced. My wife and I spent the day there, and we both felt that we came away with more than we went in with.
Thanks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, now, I believe that there are 3 gentlemen who have not been on the call before. Michael Salakar, Roger, and actually 4. Michael Salakar, Roger, Tom Schaefer, Hiram Goodman, and Roger. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Correct.
So here's what we're going to do. And Bill Franklin is here. Well, Bill, maybe you'll say a few words about GMP after we finish with the new men, but before we start with the round robin.
Sure.
If that's okay, because I'd like to get cracking here. Gents, we are not going to be able to accord you, because there's 4 of you, I'm afraid we're not going to be able to accord you quite as much time as we normally would. So, but we'll give you all time, and maybe when you come on next time, we'll be able to give you a little bit of extra if we don't have. So I'd like to figure that we're going to spend about 10 minutes with each of you, just to get round, and then we'll find a way to follow up subsequently. What we'd like to do is just learn a little bit about each of your backgrounds. I know there are a couple of people whose background I do know, but the rest of the people on the call do not. Then if you have any specific questions for us, we'll try and get to them. And in your summary, if you can just give us because of time short, of a quick summary, your disease diagnostics, your age, where you're being treated, what treatment you've had, and what you're currently facing. That would probably do it. So, do I have a volunteer to get us underway?
Well, first of all, I have been in this forum before, so you can skip me if you'd like to. Because I was in this forum. Yes, I have. And maybe it was the other forum. Bill, there is another forum every other Monday, because I know you and I spoke. So I was in that forum, but maybe I wasn't in this forum. But you want me to go ahead and give you a quick update, or would you rather let the newbies?
No, let me just ask you very quickly.
Go ahead.
Of course, everything's happening at the same time here. I'll just switch
No
my
problem.
phone off.
I can quickly give you a quick summary if you'd like.
Yeah, let me just ask you quickly. Do you have high-risk recurrent or advanced disease?
No, actually, I just had my prostate out last Friday, and
Right.
everything went really well, and it was a Gleason 3+4, which I thought it was a 6, but it turned out to be a 7.
Okay. So
but it was supposedly contained.
Right. So let me stop you right there.
Okay.
This forum is really for men with high risk, intermediate, or advanced disease. So
Okay.
you're very welcome to stay on board with us.
Okay.
But I don't want to take the time. But I do encourage you to go back to Peter's forum, which will be next Monday night.
Okay, next Monday night. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're very welcome. Peter's forum, the active surveillance low and intermediate group is second and fourth Mondays. Are you
Second and fourth Mondays.
Yeah, Michael, are you the gentleman who has a significant family history?
Yes. My uncle had passed away from it. My dad had it. Both grandfathers had it. My cousin had it. So I knew I was gonna get it. So I'm like, okay, I got to get this thing out of here before it haunts me.
Okay.
So it's gone now. Best thing I ever did was get rid of that puppy. I tell you what.
I just wrote to Peter about and asked how you were doing today because you were on my mind. But let's my pleasure. Let me move on and stay with us and listen to us. But we don't want
I'll stay on.
We don't want to scare the wits out of you. That's all. Just
okay. That sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks.
Roger, would you mind telling us a little bit about your situation?
I sure would be fine doing that. Hello, everybody. I'm Roger, and I was diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer in 2015. I had a robotic prostatectomy, and they also removed my lymph nodes and discovered the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes. And that was in August of 2015. I've been on Lupron, and I also get injections of Prolia, which I think is just to enhance your bones. And I also had surgery in March at Mayo Clinic, where they put in a device called an artificial urinary sphincter because they had cut all the nerves when they took my prostate out. So I am totally urinary incontinent, but now I have a button I can push to control my urine. And the cancer has been in remission with the Lupron. And I want to find out more about what options are coming up, because I know it's not going to last forever. The cancer will eventually get through the testosterone or around it. That's what I've got so far.
Okay, couple of quick questions. What was your Gleason score post-operative?
7. It was I don't remember if it was 4+3 or 3+4, but the cancer had gone to the lymph node.
Right. And you mentioned they put you on Lupron. Did they do radiation or not?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You mentioned they put you on Lupron at the time. Did they do any radiation?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Did they radiate you after your surgery?
No radiation. Is that the question?
Yes. So you've never had any radiation. They did not follow up with radiation.
No. All they did is remove lymph nodes and prostate.
Right.
And I'm on the Lupron.
Right. And where did they do that surgery? Where did you have your RP?
I had that in Davenport, Iowa, with a surgeon here in the Quad Cities of Davenport, Iowa.
Okay. And then who is prescribing the Lupron to you?
My surgeon, Dr. Lightfoot, at the urinary clinic.
Okay. And this was back in 15. And tell us, what was your PSA right before you had the surgery, and what was the PSA after the surgery and before you went on the Lupron?
My PSA had been doubling very quickly for a number of months. I was going to the VA and it got up to 49.
Okay.
And then I had the surgery. I had multiple saturation biopsies, probably had 40 of them. They never could find the cancer. They did an MRI. They found it. At that time, it was up to 49 PSA. After the surgery with the Lupron, it's below 0.1.
Okay, but and right after the surgery, how long between when you had the surgery and when you had your first Lupron shot? Was it a long time or was it a very short time?
I can't remember. I'd say a few months or
And
maybe
what was
fairly quickly. I can't recall exactly.
Right. And Roger, do you recall what your PSA did after the surgery and before you started the Lupron?
I don't know. I remember I may have got the Lupron almost right away.
Okay.
It's kind of fuzzy right now,
Yep.
but I believe I had the Lupron fairly quickly.
Okay. So let me so your question is what are you going to do when the Lupron stops working, correct?
What's that?
Your question is, what are you going to do when the Lupron stops working?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
Guys, who would like to talk to Roger about that situation?
I can start, Rick. Roger, this is Len, and it's typical once Lupron has failed that they'll add in a second line anti-androgen drug, either enzalutamide or abiraterone. Sometimes, especially more recently, they add those drugs right away, right up front, particularly in a case like yours where you have extension to lymph nodes. Now, you said metastatic, but do you have any lesions in bones or is it just the lymph nodes? We can't hear you.
I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
unmuted. It's just in the lymph nodes as far as I know. It has not spread to the bones, but I've not had any x-rays or MRIs to examine that.
Well, that's certainly something they should be doing. Talk to your doctor about some form of imaging that they can see if you have any growths or lesions in your bones.
I think the problem is my surgeon is just a surgeon, and I'm not seeing anybody that knows. So I probably need to go somewhere like Mayo or some cancer clinic, because I don't think I'm getting anything other than a PSA test every 3 to 6 months.
Right.
Yeah, you
I don't think
definitely need
that's
to see a
enough.
medical oncologist.
Right. I was going to point that out. I was hoping somebody, well, I'm sure somebody would bring it up, and I have some thoughts, but let's just go around a couple of other guys and then I have a bunch of suggestions for you, Roger, and we'll keep talking to you. But who else would like to speak to Roger?
This is Paul. I have a comment.
Please, Paul.
It sounds like he's never spoken with a radiation oncologist, and I don't know if that's appropriate at this point, but it seems to me that that sort of a consult could potentially be useful.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. So hopefully, Roger, you're taking some notes here. So we're talking about scans, bone scans. We're talking about possible consult with a radiation oncologist. I would have raised that we need to find you a quarterback who's a genitourinary medical oncologist. Len has suggested second line anti-androgens, which may be appropriate. Certainly, if your PSA started to increase and there were no observable metastases in your bones, you would be a candidate for a very good new drug called apalutamide or Erleada, E-R-L-E-A-D-A, Erleada. But there are a lot of options. Anybody else want to make any quick suggestions to Roger?
Yes, I would suggest a prostate oncologist.
Correct.
One who deals only with prostate. One who deals only in prostates.
Absolutely. This is what we're saying. A GU, the name of the specialty, Roger, and somebody can write it in the chat window for us, maybe Jake or Bill or Len, is a genitourinary medical oncologist. We'll write it out for you. Genitourinary medical oncologist, or a GU medical oncologist. And that's an oncologist who specializes in the genitourinary system, and almost always their main source of interest is prostate, but not 100%. There are some GU medoncs that specialize in women. There are some that specialize only in kidney, but a lot of them, some in bladder. But you definitely want to find somebody who is a GU medonc, and as Hiram says, preferably one who's a GU medonc with a specialty in prostate. I'm going to give you a suggestion before we hang up. Who else would like to say something to Roger?
Roger, this is Jake. I just have a comment that, you don't assume that your Lupron is going to stop working immediately. I mean, it varies from person to person. Some people only get a few months before your PSA starts rising. Others can get many years. But as Len pointed out, a secondary treatment would then be Zytiga or Xtandi.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I would like to make one comment. This is Hiram. Some oncologists, instead of just giving Lupron, might give 3 drugs: Lupron, maybe dutasteride, and then like Casodex. They believe in a 3-prong approach on the androgen therapy. If you saw somebody that knew a little bit more about it, you might find that recommendation.
Right. I think that you're right in the past, but the old triple blockade, we don't see that so much anymore. We don't see the finasteride, dutasteride, Casodex, Lupron trio, and the reason being that a lot of these doctors will now go straight to, if they see this type of disease, will go straight to a second-line anti-androgen like enzalutamide or abiraterone or apalutamide, and they'll marry those together. I haven't heard of anybody still taking a 5-alpha reductase drug in a long time. I would say 3 or 4 years. Once in a while you'll hear about it. I mean, the last person was our friend Dr. Steve, good rest his soul, who found out that he had some very strange stuff going on with his dihydrotestosterone, and he had very low testosterone, but his dihydrotestosterone was pretty high, and so the doc put him on a 5-alpha reductase, finasteride, I think. Dutasteride hasn't been used in years, so usually they'll put you on finasteride, which is Avodart. But I appreciate that input, Hiram, because it is true that some docs might well put you on another drugs. But because we've got a couple of other guys, let me just sum up and then go back to Roger himself for a final. I personally do not understand doctors when they see lymphatic invasion who do not recommend follow-up radiation. I mean, it astonishes me to the extent that, for me personally, this is a personal opinion, we never give medical advice, but I would find that bordering on malpractice. I mean, it is so, in my mind, in order to curb that disease, that early pelvic radiation is important. Now, it's not necessarily too late, because you were put on the Lupron that early that if your Lupron fails, you could go back and get that pelvic girdle radiation. That's what Paul Lingane was saying. And that's why I think a consult with a rad-onc might not be a bad idea. But rather than the consult with the rad-onc, I think what you need, and you said it yourself, is you need a quarterback who's a GU med-onc. And I have two ideas, actually three. The first is somebody in Minneapolis. I mean, none of these are going to be that close, except possibly one. Secondly, somebody in Omaha, Nebraska. And thirdly, I know there's some good stuff going on at the University of Iowa, at the hospital there. And they have somebody I know who's very well thought of with respect to pancreatic cancer. And I know they have genitourinary medical oncologists at the University of Iowa, but I just don't know who they are. So you'd have to go to the website, and you'd have to look on the website for whoever has specialty. I seem to think I did this about a month ago when I was looking at the pancreatic stuff, but I didn't write anybody down. But you and I, if you need some help with that, you and I can pursue that. But it's really essential. Now, in Minneapolis, I would recommend Charles Ryan at the University of Minnesota, who's probably one of the best half dozen prostate medical oncologists in the country. In Omaha, Nebraska, I would recommend Luke Nordstrom, who trained at UCSF and Stanford, and when several of us heard him at the PCI conference a couple of years ago, we were all very impressed. I think he's a very good guy. I can also recommend people to you in Chicago. There are at least two docs that come to mind in Chicago that I could recommend. And like I say, you could see if there's somebody at the University of Iowa, but I can't give you a testimonial for them because I don't know anybody who's been treated there, but they may have a GU med-onc on staff. So Roger, tell us how we can, if there's anything else we can do right now.
That's good information. If you could send me the names of those folks you just mentioned in writing, I could follow up, especially with the one in Minneapolis, because I've been considering going to Mayo Clinic.
I personally, I wouldn't go to Mayo for a number of reasons. But Les has gone. I know you know Les, and Les has been very happy there. And we've had other patients that have gone there. If it was me, I would pick Chuck Ryan over Quan in a heartbeat. I mean, one of the reasons is because Quan himself is not actually a med-onc, even though he acts like one. And the medical oncologists who are there at Mayo, there's some friction between them and the radiation oncologists and Quan. So it's just a tricky situation. but definitely Quan is an option. You might want to interview him, and Chuck Ryan is. What I need you to do, Roger, is to send me your email address, and let me just see if I can see it. If I can see it around Jet. I've got it.
Okay,
I've
Rick.
got it. Yes.
That it's Luke Nordquist.
Thank you.
From the guy
Luke
from
thank
from
you. Thank you.
Omaha. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have. I'll send you the link to his website. All right. I'll give me a couple of days because I'm traveling. Starting early tomorrow morning. I may be able to get this done whilst I'm on the airplane and send it out to you. But I've got a note here to send you doctor recommendations. And then I would go whatever they tell you. I mean, if they think that radiation is appropriate, then they're going to work with you to find you a rad-onc. And hopefully you'll find one that's close to you so you won't have to place yourself in a distant place for a long period of time. Anyway, let's move on if we can in the interest of time. Hiram, why don't you go next?
Did you say Hiram?
I did.
Yes, I'm 75 years old. I've had prostate cancer for about 10 years. I didn't do prostatectomy. I've been off and on Lupron and that sort of thing. Recently, I've had cancer to the lymph nodes, possibly to the bone. We're still trying to determine that. And I guess one of my main questions, I recently had a bone scan, and there were some prostate cancer that showed a little bit. However, in the imaging that was done of the bone scan, and they gave me the disc on it, it was not real clear. And so I don't know how they could actually determine, and they didn't actually determine it was cancer. They're wanting me now to do an MRI to determine if it was cancer. I guess my question in my mind is, if they couldn't tell from the bone scan, how will an MRI tell that it is definitely prostate cancer? And my other question that I have, and hopefully through this course of this discussion, there's imaging, and of course the CT PET scan imaging doesn't work for prostate cancer, only if you use the gallium or something like that, or C11 acetate. And I'm wondering if anybody has had a place where they can get that done where insurance would pay for it. And that's my idea, is that my cancer actually appears to possibly be to the bone now, is in one lymph node.
Where are you located?
In Arizona.
Aha! Where in Arizona?
In northern Arizona, in a little community in northern Arizona.
Called?
Snowflake.
What's it called? Oh, you're in Snowflake. Yes. I know Snowflake. From many, many years ago, I know Snowflake. I live in a little community close to the border, at the other end to you. So,
on the other side of on the eastern side of the state, or on the west side of the state?
In the middle. I'm in Tubac. Halfway, 2/3 of the way to Nogales from Tucson. So,
right.
Wow. Well, nice to hear you. Nice to hear you on this call. Well, you have options. I wanted to ask you, what treatment? You didn't have surgery. What treatment did you get originally, Hiram?
I've just been on this androgen deprivation. I had some Lupron, and what happened? My wife got real sick within the last few years, And so I took care of her, and I opted to, I couldn't be out of commission. She had cancer, and I had to take care of her. So I opted for just doing the Lupron and that sort of thing for a while till I got her taken care of. So I probably would have had radiation earlier if that was what I was getting ready to do. I was getting ready to have radiation and go out to Detoli, and then she got real sick. I couldn't leave her. So we
Okay,
continued.
well, I don't think you have to go as far as Detoli. I think that probably, who's giving you the Lupron right now? Who's administering the Lupron?
I'm not, right now I'm on this intermittent therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm doing mostly just Casodex right now.
I see. And who's prescribing the Casodex and the intermittent therapy, etc.?
The prostate oncology specialist.
In Marina del Rey.
Yes.
And who are you seeing there?
Dr. Turner.
Okay. So we like Dr. Turner. Peter, I don't know. Peter's on grandfather duty today, and so he said he wasn't sure if he'd come in or not. But I mean, if you are seeing Dr. Turner, then he's well up on the scanning that's available to you. I mean, I was going to suggest a doctor in Phoenix to you, a couple of doctors in Phoenix to you. There's a very good GU medical oncologist at Mayo, who one of the gents who lives here in Tucson on the call right now sees, called Dr. Singh, S-I-N-G-H. He's
with Dr. Singh is with who?
Mayo in Phoenix.
Mayo. Okay, a problem I have with Mayo is that much of the Medicare insurance Mayo does not accept. I've tried to go to Mayo, but
okay. So well, let me just finish, and then I'll let Dennis address that. In terms of imaging, Almeida in Phoenix has some trials with gallium-68, and you may be able to get onto them. And my thought is that if we could get you to do either a gallium-68 scan or a PSMA scan, we'd have a much better handle on whether those lesions that you're seeing in your bone are prostate cancer or not. And the other thing is that, Almeida still does a C11 scan. I mean, he knows, we know it's not the best technology, but he's very, very good with that C11 acetate technology. So let me open this up again, and let's start with Dennis, because Dennis has experience with Medicare and Dr. Singh and Mayo. Dennis, what can you say to Hiram? Are you muted, Mr. Correa? There you go.
Okay, how about now? Is that better?
Now we can hear you. Yeah,
Okay,
we can hear you.
I've got a mute on my headset here, and then I've got a mute on the screen, and I thought I took care of it. They will accept sort of indirectly. I can't remember the term they use. It's referred or deferred or something like that. But they will send you a bill. I pay their bill, and then I get the money back from Medicare. And then I also have a supplemental plan with United Healthcare to cover the remainder of the stuff. Now, it does cost you a very small amount more that way than a facility that directly accepts the Medicare.
Okay, this is the problem. I don't mean to interrupt you, but to tell you the difference, I have an Advantage plan, which is not Medicare plus a supplement. It's only an Advantage plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to use a someone that's in the system, basically.
Well, I don't have to use in the system, but Mayo won't even accept me.
Well, they would, but you would be paying a 40%. You have a 40% deductible with your Advantage plan, because I'm also on an Advantage plan. But here's the thing: if there's no genitourinary medical oncologist in that group, you can insist on one. You can fight to get one. And my guess is that your Advantage plan probably doesn't have a GU Med Onc, because most of them do not. Certainly mine does. Ours does not, down here in Santa Cruz and Pima County. So you could pursue them to get it, number one. Number two, you can go outside your Advantage plan and you have to cover 40% of whatever the cost is. That could be expensive, probably not much more expensive than Jeff Turner. So, to me, those would be the options that would be available to you.
Did you say there was another one besides Mayo? You mentioned there were a couple. Who's the other one besides Mayo?
Well, not in terms of a GU Med Onc. I mean, the only good genitourinary medical oncologist that I know I would have to say in the whole of Arizona, who specializes in that field is Singh at Mayo. The other guy that I mentioned to you is for screening, for scanning and screening, and that's Fabio, Fabio Almeida, Almeida, Fabio Almeida. And his practice is hold on a minute and I'll tell you. I should have this right
Does he
here.
do the gallium? Does he do the gallium-68 scan?
Yes, he does, but he's doing it as a test. But I think he has space for that. He does do the gallium-68 scan, or he has been.
Okay, I called him at one point, not too long ago, and I didn't think he was doing the gallium. I know he does the C11 acetate, but I didn't know he did gallium.
Right. So he has an ongoing clinical trial with gallium using a different agent to what most people are using. And it's a question of whether he has it open now or he doesn't have it open now. I can send you, I don't know your email. You can put it in the chat window if you would like, or you can send it to me. You can send it to me personally on the chat window, whatever's convenient, but I can send you Almeida's trial. Oh, wait a minute. I can put Almeida's trial. I think I can put Almeida's trial in the chat window for you.
Rick, I'm
I'm on a telephone. I'm not on the computer.
Oh, you're on the telephone. Sorry. Okay. So if you're on the telephone, then you can send an email to info at AnCan.org. Alpha Nancy Charlie Alpha Nancy, AnCan.org, and we'll get back to you and we'll give you the reference for the trial that Almeida is running. But what I cannot do is guarantee it's still open. I'd have to look at it right now, and I can't do that, unfortunately, at the same time as moderating.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Anybody else like to speak to Hiram? No? No takers? Thoughts? Thoughts on the
Hiram, this is Len. If you weren't already aware, I just want to bring to your attention that the gallium-68 PSMA scan is still considered experimental. There's no insurance company, to my knowledge, that will cover everything. They may cover the scan, but not the actual radio tracer. So that, you can expect some out-of-pocket expense.
Okay.
So I'm just, let me just see. Yeah, the trial is suspended. As of Jan 15th, that gallium-68 trial is suspended. Because I'm just bringing up I'm just looking at clinicaltrials.gov. Probably means that it says drug supply. What that means is that he's run out of the R2 that he's testing, and until he gets some more, he can't really, he cannot continue. What thoughts Ken Anderson, do you have any thoughts on Axumin maybe in the Phoenix area? Did you ever look at that?
Yeah, the only one was Rick, and the was open was, but you just stated that it's not open. It's the only guy in Phoenix that I know you can get it at. So, but Lynn's right. So it's not covered under insurance, and the out-of-pocket costs if you can get in the clinical trial with it. So, they did the PET and with I think it was 11. It did. I didn't have to pay anything for that, and it does require a trip to Houston. It's funny, Phoenix is that it is.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit on us, Ken, unfortunately.
Rick, I had
But
my acumen done at Mayo with Dr. Singh.
Ah, okay. So there's another
Yeah, that's
alternative.
the new facility in Phoenix. They have pretty much the latest and greatest in the area from equipment standpoint.
So there's an alternative for you, Hiram, but you again, you're going to have to work with your advantage, because this should be made available to you. It's covered by Medicare, and you can you can ask for an Axumin scan. So are you familiar with the Axumin scan?
I'm a little familiar with it. I understand it's not not near as good as gallium-68. Is that correct or not?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't want to say it's not near as good. It's not as good, is what I would say. But it's better than C11. It's better than the regular F18. And frankly, I think that if it were me, that's probably, I'd take the easy route, at least to begin with, and I try and get an Axumin scan at Mayo in Phoenix.
Okay. And you say it's better. You say it's better than C11 and is good and better than something else, or good as something else. What was the other?
F18.
F18. You think it's as good as F18? Okay.
No, I think it's better than F18. It's better than C11. It's not as good as the gallium scan. It's not as good as the 18F pyridium scan. But I think that it's definitely a good alternative, and it's the sort of thing that's going to tell you whether you are whether you have METs.
Okay, and you had Medicare pay it. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's covered by Medicare, the Axumin scan.
Okay. Thank you.
So, what you'd have to do is figure out how you're going to get, who's going to recommend it to you and how you're going to get it. But, I think that's going to take a little bit of work with your Advantage plan, but it is available to you.
Okay.
Hiram, what is
Good.
your current PSA?
Current PSA was about 4.
Oh, that's certainly large enough for Axumin scanning. I think there's a very high percentage of lesions are picked up. Anything over 2, PSA of 2, Axumin should be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you're there. And like I say, if you have my email, if we can help you in any way, if I can, if Dennis can, in terms of mail, I can connect you to Dennis, and we're happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So let's just move on quickly and catch up with Tom Schaefer, who I recently met, but Tom is one of the illustrious members of the well-known Silicon Valley support group that meets at El Camino Real Hospital, which Peter has attended several times, which is full of very smart scientists who keep exceptionally good records. And we've been talking a little bit to each other about the use of pembrolizumab. And I invited Tom to join us. And Tom, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit better than that, tell people your background, and take just 10 minutes or so.
Oh, yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. You gave an excellent intro there. I don't know if I would agree with the word illustrious, but everything else was right on. So anyway, I'm here out of curiosity. I'll tell you in advance that I don't have any questions about my own case, but I'll be happy to run by it for you. Okay, well, I was diagnosed in 2011, and I was got a radical prostatectomy at Stanford, and about a year later, PSA started coming back, and then I had a salvage radiation. I got that from a very good doctor named Robert Sinha at El Camino Hospital. And after that, the PSA started rising again. And at that time, I found out about Mark Scholes in Marina del Rey, and so I saw him, and he put me on a very aggressive treatment path. He sent me to Phoenix to get a C11 acetate scan from Fabio Almeida, and he found a couple of abdominal nodes that appeared suspicious, and so I had those radiated, and also I started Lupron. I started on Lupron at that time, and he also started me on Zytiga, and also he gave on Dr. Scholes' recommendation. I had a short course of chemo with Taxotere. So at the current time, I didn't tolerate the Zytiga well, so he switched me to Xtandi, and so currently I have been on Lupron continuously for more than 4 years, and on Xtandi for more than 3 years. And also, I've recently started on getting Prolia injections because my bone mineral density has been dropping. And well, but the good part is my PSA continues to be undetectable. So that's the status right now, and I just keep my fingers crossed for that situation to continue. So anyway, that's the brief description of my case. And as I said, I don't have any questions, but if there's any questions you might have, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, that's an interesting journey that you've been on, and what's good about it is that you find yourself 8 years along now, 7, 8 years along with an undetectable PSA. How old were you when you were diagnosed, Tom?
Oh, I was 66, so I'm now 74.
Okay. And what was your Gleason scores originally, and what was your PSA pattern when you and how quickly did it come back? Give us a quick rundown on that.
Okay, when I was diagnosed, I was a Gleason 4+3. The PSA actually was okay. The actual PSA was around 6, but I was on finasteride at that time, so you generally have to figure that as equivalent to PSA of 12. And like I said, it was about a year after my surgery that the PSA came back, and it got up to about 0.3. It was up to about 0.3 or 0.4 when I had the salvage radiation, and the PSA reappeared after the salvage radiation. The PSA reappeared basically as soon as the Lupron wore off, and it was, although it was very low, but it appeared to have a doubling time of about 5 months, and it got up to 0.6 before I launched on the next series of treatments, including Lupron, and it's been undetectable basically ever since I started on Lupron. Okay, I don't hear any questions, so maybe it's time to move on.
I'm sorry, I
You're
was
on mute.
muted. Yeah. So that was around 2015 that you
yes, I had all those various. I started on Lupron in October of 2014, and then I had the additional radiation and chemo in early 2015.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that.
I have one question. This is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Tom. I'm just wondering, when you said you did not tolerate the Zytiga, what were the side effects that were hard for you?
Okay. I didn't experience any symptoms, but my liver enzymes went through the ceiling. The AST and ALT, they very quickly rose after I started on Zytiga, and they continued rising after I stopped the Zytiga. They finally got up to about 10 times the normal limit.
Wow.
And then slowly came down. So that was a sign that I didn't get along with Zytiga very well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the Lupron can irritate the liver just in and of its own. It did for me, but I never had that type of response. I just had high ALT and AST all the time I was on the Lupron, but it certainly wasn't at the sort of levels that you're talking about. Is it, since everything's working, like you said, you have no questions, and you know we're very grateful to have you on now and for you to come back and to contribute your knowledge. Is there anybody other than Paul that would like to ask a question to Tom?
This is Carl. I do have a question concerning the types of treatments that were brought to your attention or you brought to their attention that they determined or you determined would not be useful in your course of treatment. And the reason I'm asking that question generally because I'm going through various reviews myself of the types of therapies I need to think going forward. And one of the things I'm looking at is Provenge. I know if Provenge was one that you were looking at or some other treatment that you decided not to follow through on.
Okay. I don't believe I would have qualified for Medicare coverage for Provenge. Don't you have to have a bone metastasis for that?
Typically, yes.
Yeah. So anyway,
No, you don't have to have bone metastasis. You have to be castrate resistant.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm not in that situation, so that Provenge did not appear to be an option.
And are there? I mean, how much chemo did you do, Tom? How many sessions?
I did 4 cycles. The usual 75. Every 3 weeks for 4 sessions.
I do think, and this is totally anecdotal, but I do think that early chemo makes a difference. Not every time, not for everyone, but
right. Well, I mean, we had the charted trial that established that, at least for some people.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm talking about people long before charted. That I mean, I think of 2 people. Sadly, they're no longer with us, but they had very aggressive disease and they lived a long time with aggressive disease, and they both did early chemo. And I think if you have aggressive disease, you have to give a lot of thought to whether it's worth doing early chemo. I mean, we know, as Tom rightly says, from charted, that we know that it makes a difference, and that difference can be anywhere from 14 to, I think, 22 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, depending on the different studies. And we know it's the biggest bang you get for your buck. But I've just noticed it where I've worked with people that had it back in the mid 2000s and lasted a long time. So I'm just saying. Anyone else like to ask a question before we move on? Well, Tom, please come back.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it is a privilege for me. I mean, as part of the leadership team of my local group, I'm very curious to see how other advanced prostate cancer groups are run, and I'm very pleased with what I hear up to this point. And of course, I'm sort of wishing that I had logged in with my computer instead of the phone, because I'm getting a little tired of holding the phone.
Well, that's okay. Next time you can come in with your computer, and you're always welcome.
I didn't use the computer because I thought I had to somehow mute the microphone on my computer, and I guess I didn't realize that there would be a mute button for me to push there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
next time.
Don't worry about it. Next time, and we'll look forward to have you back. So what I'm going to do now, very quickly, is I'm going to ask Bill Franklin to tell you about what he's been working on. And this is something for us. This is something for AnCan that we're going to talk about. We'll just take 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll have about 40 minutes to cover questions tonight. Bill.
3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, I can cover it in 3 to 5 minutes. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Bill Franklin. A little while ago, Rick and the board asked me to join the board of directors, and I was happy to do it. They helped me a lot here, and I was very happy to get into the AnCan organization and help them to return what I got, give back what I got. So one of the things that came up is Rick was working, and before him, I think it was Rick, if I'm not mistaken, was working with an organization called GreatNonProfits, and they are greatnonprofits.org because they are themselves a nonprofit. And what they do is they have a database, a list of nonprofits across the United States. I don't recall if I've seen any international ones, but definitely in the United States. And they categorize them in many different categories. And you can search by state, you can search by category, you can search by name. And when you find it, if you put a presence on GreatNonProfits, which we have done, I believe Rick did the majority of the work. It's still a work in progress, but it says everything about who we are, what we do. And one of the things they do is they have what they call a GreatNonProfits badge, and they tout those organizations that get a lot of good reviews. They and my mind went blank, Rick. The top-rated nonprofits.
Top-rated.
Yeah, top-rated nonprofits is what they call the ones with a lot of reviews. So you might have noticed in Rick's email this week that he asked people to go to GreatNonProfits and write a review. We currently have 2 reviews, one which was written by me and one that was written by my friend Rich Chuckray, who was another individual who came to this group when he had prostate cancer, and he was happy to write the review. So if we get 10 reviews that are rated 3.5 stars or above, we can get the top rated badge, and we can put that on our website. And the other thing you can do on greatnonprofits.org is donate to the organizations that you find. So there's a lot of other things you can do in there, but I'm still researching, and I'll be happy to talk about it at a later date and let you guys know what I find. Rick's put it up on the screen for those of you that are on the web, but it is greatnonprofits.org, no spaces or anything between GreatNonProfits, just one string of letters. And navigation of the site's very simple. They have a search bar at the top. You type in the name of the nonprofit. If you type in AnCan, you will find us. So I urge anybody, if you feel like you've been helped by us and you'd like to say something nice about us, go out there and write up a little review, tell your story. Mine is the longest one on there. There's only 2. Mine's the longest. I challenge someone to write a longer one. So, or you can just say a few things about how we helped you, and if you want to write a negative review, that's someone's prerogative. But I'm not fishing for those. I'm only fishing for positive ones.
So I think I stopped sharing my screen. Is that right? I'm never quite sure.
I still see it. Yeah.
Do you still see it?
Yeah.
Well, I've got to figure out how to stop sharing my screen here. I'll leave it there for the second.
Anybody have any questions about greatnonprofits.org or?
Yeah.
Yes, I just went onto the website right now as we're talking, and is it where you have to click on share your story?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I will do that.
And the thing it will ask you, I think I just clicked on the wrong website. Yeah. So share your story, and I believe you can share it without creating a login account here, but they'll ask you to create one after you type up the story. You can, or or you can, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. So, but you don't have to have a login to share your story, to the best of my knowledge. If you find that that is the case, Carl, you could let the rest of us know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. Where it says share experience with this nonprofit today, I think that's where you click. And am I no longer sharing my screen, Mr. Franklin?
I still see it at the bottom, in the bottom window. You got.
Yep.
Do
Yep.
you?
It's there.
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop.
So there's several places. You can click on share your story. You can click on write a review. I think they all take you to the same place. So.
Okay. Well, so thank you very much, and we ask you to do that. It can make a difference for us, and it's not very hard for you to do. So thank you. I wish I could figure out how to stop sharing my screen here. It says it tells you how to start sharing your screen, but it doesn't tell you how to stop sharing your screen. So,
Rick, do you have the control panel on the right side?
Yes.
There should be
just try clicking on the
play button.
The movie camera. That toggles it on and off.
Well, no, the movie camera. That's okay. Now it's stopped. Now it should have stopped.
Okay.
Toggle it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it now.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Because I don't want to be bringing people's information up here and get myself into trouble. I did put in the chat window. I also put the URL, so it'll be in there. It'll be in there somewhere. There's a lot going on in the chat window which I'm not following here. I'll have to look at it afterwards, but I just put it in there. All right, so let me run down, and what I will say today, because we have about 40 minutes, is if you have something that is not pressing and it can wait till next Tuesday, that would be great. Let's see if you have something that is pressing, then we will definitely talk about it right now. And if I get to the bottom of the list and I have nobody, because you will think that your stuff isn't important enough, then we'll go through again. So don't be shy. If you really want to talk about something right now, then I encourage you to do it. So let me start at the top with Jake. Jake, anything you'd like to talk about tonight?
Nothing pressing.
Okay. Mr. Jackson.
I'll be the first non-pressing that you get back to if you make it through the list empty.
Okay. All right. Carl Foreman, anything for you tonight?
The second non-pressing.
Oh, you're the second non-pressing. Okay. Dennis, anything for you?
No, thank you, Rick.
Okay. God bless you, Dennis. John Appler, anything for you? Are you still with us? I'm never sure.
I am this time, Rick, but nothing for me. Thanks for asking.
Thanks. Ken Anderson, anything for you?
Only if you can hear me, Rick.
I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
All right. It has to do with this peptide thing in Israel that came out on the 29th. Did you guys hear about it?
Yeah, I've had two people send it to me.
Well, then we can then, because I sent it to Paul and he didn't reply, so I figured it to be us.
Okay, and I have to look at it. You sent it to me, and my buddy Nigel sent it to me, and I just haven't had a time to look at it. Hopefully on the airplane tomorrow. But that's one we can talk about next time, hopefully.
Can you give us a little more detail on that so we can look up on the internet?
Can you?
Yeah, the Daily Wire published it on the 29th of January. Dr. Moyad, and he says cure for cancer using 3 different peptides.
Yeah. So if I could just interject, there was a lot of discussion about that article on Inspire, and some people chimed up with a good background in science, and it's kind of pie in the sky. It looks like maybe they're looking for venture capitalist. He doesn't make any strong claims, and they've never done anything except for mice testing. So to say that they're going to go from mice testing to a cure for cancer in a year is it sounds too good to be true, and you know what that old saw means, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't.
Absolutely.
But you can find like there was a lot of discussion on Inspire about that. If you guys want to go look there, and one of my favorite sites is sciencebasedmedicine.org. They discussed it on there too, and the doctor that wrote that up, he breaks it down pretty well as to why it's probably not anything we should get excited about. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, I mean, I would like to discuss it. I would like, I'm batted around in this forum, but I just don't think tonight is the right. So can we just put that on hold, and I'll make a note to make sure that we touch on it next Tuesday. So anybody who would like to talk about it, join us next Tuesday. Paul, Les Shelderup, anything for you tonight?
No, thank you.
Okay. Paul Frieda, anything for you?
No, nothing for me tonight, thanks.
Okay. Len, anything for you?
Niente, nothing.
Okay. Jim Ward, how are you doing there?
I'm doing okay, guys. Thanks for asking. I'll be third non-pressing, but I do have a housekeeping question. I am still, it's probably my fault, but I am still not totally clear on the regular date for dates for this group.
Okay.
As far as when this group convenes. I'm just sorry.
Okay, so we meet first and third Mondays at 8 o'clock Eastern, and second and fourth Tuesdays at 6 o'clock Eastern.
Second and fourth.
And occasionally,
Tuesday.
and somebody will write this and put it in the chat window, I'm sure. And if there is a fifth Monday or a fifth Tuesday, we may have a special session, a plenary session like we did last week with Professor Bill, who gave us a session on cancer genetics, which you can find on our website and listen to, and you can download the slides if you didn't attend. And Jim, you should be getting our notice. Did you not get the advance notice? Because you definitely are.
I got the notice for this call for sure.
Okay.
So it sounds like the only one sure call that's at 8 p.m. Eastern is the first Monday of the month. Otherwise, it's second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
First and third. First Monday and third Monday.
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Paul Lingane, anything for you?
Nothing for me, Rick. Thanks.
Okay. Jeff Marchi, anything for you?
Not really. Depo-Provera had my second shot and cuts the hot flashes down to almost nothing. It's great.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, if we've got time, we'll check in with you.
Yeah, I don't know if you need any more. If people have hot flashes, they ought to look at it.
Say that again?
I don't know if you need to talk anymore, but if people get hot flashes, they should really get a Depo-Provera shot. It is
Depo-Provera, yeah, okay. Yeah, Depo-Provera is a definite option, yeah. Sylvester, anything for you?
No, thank you.
Okay. I think we lost Professor Bill unless he came back on. Yeah, I saw him. He came on briefly and then he dropped off. I will give you a quick update on Professor Bill. He had his 5th chemo last Thursday. His PSA rose from 68 to 101 between his 4th and his 5th chemo. And so he's a little unsure what to do. He and I talked at length this morning, and he needs to do some scans, which he's planning to do, and he needs to get a better handle on the PSA because it's possible that he's experiencing a flare. I've seen it before, others have seen it before. There are some people that do get a flare from chemo well into the session because all of a sudden the cells just start dying off. We just don't know. His alkaline phosphatase is pretty constant. Around the 150s. It's up a little bit, but it really hasn't done a lot. And I encouraged him to talk to his doc at Roswell Park and his doc at Dana-Farber. And he thinks that his doc at Roswell has canceled the 6th chemo. And I said, you know, before you cancel the 6th chemo, just monitor your PSA and make sure that do it weekly and just see that you're not seeing a turnaround because we've seen it happen. It's anecdotal, but we've seen it happen. He's thinking about next steps, and that's probably either going to be carboplatin because of the nature of his disease and the fact that he is germline BRCA, and we know that carboplatin can be effective for people that are germline BRCA. And lutetium or whatever they may have up their sleeve at Dana-Farber. So that's just the brief update for Bill. I'm moving along. Bill Franklin, anything on your own stuff for us tonight?
I have nothing, and I'm gonna have to drop off here shortly to get the kids to bed. I just will say one thing.
Yes.
I posted 2 links in the chat window for those of you that are online, and it's basically an article about the decline in the instance of cancer, all cancers, in the last 25 years. And the second article is an article about the first article that puts it in more layman terms, and it's actually from like a stock advisor site that it covers the medical stuff, and then it talks about cancer drugs that have been released in the last year. But I found both articles interesting, and prostate cancer is definitely pretty heavily mentioned in there. So one interesting fact was that the 5-year survival rate, prostate cancer has the highest survival rate for 5-year rates of all cancers at 98%. So that's good news. And I've never seen Sylvester Mann's face until tonight, so. I have never seen him on the camera, so it's good to put a face to the name.
The two of you could be brothers.
We got the same haircut, I know that.
Thank you, Bill, and good luck with the kids. And finally, Larry Fish, anything for you tonight, Mr. Fish? Are you there, Mr. Fish?
Oh, hello. I think I'm here.
Yes.
No, I'm good tonight. Thank you very much, Rick.
All right. Hey, Mr. Fish, I'm going to send you an invitation after this is done. Okay?
All right.
You'll see more after this is done. I forgot to send you an invitation. I'm going to send you an invitation. Or if I get the chance, I'll put it in the chat window. Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. Let us, since nobody thought that they were too pressing, I'll have to go to the 1, 2, 3s. So I'm going to start with Rich. I'm going to go to Carl, and then I'm going to go to Jim Ward. And we've got about half an hour. So, Rich, you're up.
Oh, mine should be fairly short. Brief history. Eligard shot 29 August, 3 months, so it should have run through the 29th of November. Just prior to the 29th of November, I had PSA and testosterone, which was less than 0.1 PSA, less than 3 testosterone. I just had another PSA and testosterone. The PSA is up to 0.1, which increasing is somewhat expected. My testosterone is 243.
Okay.
Less than 2 months after the supposed end of the Eligard shot.
Okay, so that
based on everything that I'd heard here, I was looking for 6 months to 2 years.
So
So
do you
from
feel any
less,
better yet, Rich? Do you feel the testosterone?
the side effects that I had been experiencing with Eligard are actually increased. So yeah, I expected the numbers to go up. From less than 3 to 243 is considerably higher than I expected.
Yeah.
And undetectable to detectable for the PSA in 2 months seemed perhaps a bit quick, but perhaps not. So I wanted to throw it out and see what some other thoughts might be.
right. Who wants to? Before I come in, who would like to talk to that and about PSA and testosterone levels returning when you stop the LHRH?
Well, one of the reasons you stopped was because you wanted your testosterone to increase, right, Rich?
It was a couple of reasons. That was one. The other was with the treatment that I had, I kept bumping into documentation that indicated after 12, it was simply beating a dead horse, which was mainly me. That you weren't picking up that much with the type treatment that I had after 12.
What does your doctor say about the increases?
We'll discuss that in detail Friday at 12:30.
Anyone else want to talk us to their experience? Len, how quickly did your PSA or did your testosterone come back? And
Yeah,
what did your PSA do?
Like Rich, I also had a rapid return of testosterone. I think by 4 months, I was already over 400 testosterone level. The PSA did rise, but then after several months of rising, it stabilized and stayed at 0.5 for about a year. So don't be too alarmed, Rich, by the rise in PSA. I also already spoke to Rich about the ongoing effects of the ADT, even though his T levels are rising. I also continued for some time after my T levels had risen. I was still experiencing some of the side effects, hot flashes, etc., of the ADT. So it takes a while. There seems to be a lag between your rising T levels and the final dismissal of the ADT, typical ADT symptoms. So I think he's just got to hang in there a few more months, and I think he'll see a reduction in the ADT side effects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anyone else have experience they'd like to contribute on PSA and testosterone after you stop your you finish your LHRH? Go ahead.
As the crickets are in the background, my main concern was from the testosterone jumping back to 243 in less than 2 months. I expected the PSA to move.
Right.
It went undetectable to detectable, and that's all. I have a prostate, so it is going to continue to rise.
Right.
So my interest was simply the testosterone jump.
Right. Well, there's a bunch of material on the testosterone jump studies, because I remember looking at that myself back in 2010 when I stopped my LHRH. So there's a fair amount of research done on it. What I will say is this: in a certain sense, it's very good that your testosterone has come back that quickly. First of all, we know that it hasn't. There are many men, even younger men, whose testosterone takes forever to come back, and then they never recover and get the benefit of either being on intermittent or having a durable remission and having regular testosterone levels. Now, your situation is a little different to many of the men on this call because you're not really on intermittent. What you did was you chose to do radiation and HDR and IMRT and to accompany it with adjuvant ADT, which was much like I did, except that I had LDR, I had low dose radiation, I had the seeds, I didn't have the rods. To me, the whole purpose of doing that is hopefully to get a durable remission. And you and I have talked extensively about how long you stay on the ADT. My experience has always been that the guys that come off the ADT quickly don't get the durable remission. And those who have endured it for a longer period of time seems to have gotten it, and that's totally anecdotal. But that's why I always say, if it were me, I would stay on a little bit longer. The fact that your PSA has gone up immediately suggests that probably you could use a little bit more ADT and starve these bastards out. And if they still came back after you've been on it for 18 months or 24 months, you could swear up and down at me. But, I just feel personally, I did 28 months and it worked for me. So and I had T3 disease. I had disease that was outside the capsule. I think that was your case, wasn't it? You had extra capsular. They thought your disease was outside the capsule. Isn't that right, Rich?
They suspected extracapsular extensions.
Yeah. That's the same exactly the same as my situation. They suspected it with me, and then Shinohara did a color Doppler, and he suspected it. And then when they put the seeds in, they put seeds in my prostate bed as well as in the capsule. So that made me think that there certainly was something there. So and I do think it takes a while, even if your testosterone. My testosterone took about 4 or 5 months to start to come back. But I think it's true, as Len says, that your body doesn't adjust that quickly to having testosterone in it. So yes, you're going to have some side effects. But I'm just more concerned and I would be wanting to keep a real close eye on that PSA. I will probably want to be testing it every month if it were me, and just let's see what happens to it.
Okay.
Anybody else want to chip in on that? What about one of you guys from the Paul or Tom, and your experience when people stop the LHRH in that El Camino group?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I know we had one fellow who his testosterone, he was very unhappy because his testosterone took many months to come back. That's about as much information as I can recall.
Right.
Jeff Turner will say that it takes half the amount of time to come back as you've been on the Lupron. So if you've been on the Lupron for 2 years, it takes a year typically to come back substantially.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I've actually heard it the other way around, Paul. But there again, I may have got it confused originally. It would not have been the first time, but I've always heard the heuristic rule, that it takes you twice as long as you've been on the LHRH to get back to normal. Now, that may be to feel normal. That may not be in terms that is not about testosterone recovery, but that is sort of to feel and to lose all the side effects. It takes double the time that you were on the drug, for whatever that's worth. And I think in my case that was probably right. I mean, I don't think I felt strong and I mean, other than the whatever it left me with and there are a couple of things it leave me with, I don't think I felt close to 100% and as strong for a good 4 years, 3 to 4 years. It just takes a while. Okay. And my testosterone came back. I think it got as high as 700 or 800. It was 500 before I started, and it settled back at, as far as I know, at around that 500, 400 to 600 level. But also the other thing, Rich, is that testosterone fluctuates a huge amount. So, it's not a very reliable number. So you have to test it a couple of times to figure out. It's got a very big variance. What was your testosterone level before you went on the LHRH?
They did the wrong test.
Oh, no.
It was 14.7 with a high of 18.6. They did the other test.
Oh, well, I don't know what is the other test.
One. There's a test for free and there's a test for total.
Oh, they did it for free, huh? Okay.
They did the wrong test.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, just as a point of information, we always suggest to guys going on LHRH that they test before they get their first shot or very soon after they get their first shot, just so that they know their baseline. A lot of doctors don't like to do it, but I think personally, I think it's important information to have what your baseline testosterone was, for reasons like we're talking about right now. Okay, let's move on and talk to Carl Foreman.
Hello. As I see the clock, it's 9:50 p.m. here Eastern Time, so I'm sure I have less than 10 minutes, so we'll talk fast. First, as we've been discussing during this webinar, I went on to GreatNonProfits and I did enter my opinion of this organization, which is tremendous, just so useful. I've gotten so much information out of it and well worth me putting at a minimum putting a review, and as I've contributed financially in the past before, and expect to continue to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, and Jake and Len and everybody else. But the second thing, the meeting down in Fort Myers, I did attend the Virginia conference where Dr. Snuffy Myers was one of the presenters at the time. And I went to Virginia because it was drivable to where I live in central New Jersey, so it was a couple-hour drive, and went down there. I found it very useful. I wish I would be able to go to the March 2nd, because one of the clearly items of interest for me is about Provenge and immunotherapy, which is something that I have more recently been considering. In relation to a week from tomorrow, I have a key appointment. I actually have 3 appointments that will possibly determine my future course of treatments or not. I am being treated at the Rutgers Cancer Institute in New Jersey. I had a robotic prostatectomy on November 14th. So 3 months after my surgery, I'm meeting with the surgeon, Dr. Isaac Kim, as a 3-month follow-up. That's meeting number 1. Meeting number 2 is a monthly appointment with my oncologist. We are going to discuss the Zytiga that I've been on and whether it's continuing to be effective or not. And if not, if we need to consider other courses of treatment. The third appointment is with a doctor by the name of Gnason, who is Harvard and Yale trained, and he heads their, what's the heck is the name? The personalized medicine division or group. And I'm quite interested in that. It's kind of in its infancy, relatively new type of area of study, for lack of a better word, but it covers various areas, and it's to try and determine a personalized medicine for each of us individually. I've had some genetic testing. I'm in the process of waiting for Foundation Medicine. I should be hearing sometime next week for the results of the Foundation Medicine genetic test. And so that's where I am at. I guess getting back to the Fort Myers, if there's a way of determining, those of us who are unable to attend, what kind of information will be made or can be made available for the really good topics that they are going to have down there on March 2nd.
Okay, so let me ask you, Carl, what is going to be the thrust of your questioning with these 3 doctors? And I think what you didn't mention, of course, I'm aware, is that right now you are you're on Lupron and Zytiga, right? Or enzalutamide? Zytiga.
Yeah, Zytiga, now the generic version of it by Apotek. It was changed from Janssen.
Right.
It's Eligard versus Lupron. I guess it's one and the same thing. And
okay,
I just had my 6-month Eligard shot just last week. And in meeting with the urologist, when I initially asked him about the Provenge, he says, "Oh, we have an associate urologist doctor in another office who is handling Provenge treatments." And I met with him. He said I probably would be a good candidate. I actually put in, there's an application you have to fill out with Dendreon to see if you're approved through them to have the treatment done. So I figured in advance of this meeting, I have at least that application going. And if necessary, the timing of it would say, okay, yes, we can move forward with that.
Yeah, but you're not on Medicare yet, are you?
No, I'm 64, and I have very good coverage, thank goodness.
Okay, so if you were to get Provenge, it would be through your insurance, correct?
Yes, and I expect it should be fully covered, but we're not entirely sure because it is an FDA-approved treatment, right? It should be covered by my Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield.
It's an FDA-approved. It is an FDA-approved treatment, but on Medicare, you have to see 3 successive rises in your PSA. Now, there are some folks on this call, I'm going to go back a long way, who remember the dear departed Lupron Jim. And Lupron Jim was a regular contributor to the Inspire site in the days when I used to be on it very often. And Lupron Jim actually forced his PSA. He and his doctor conspired, and he had 3 successive rises in his PSA, and that got him Provenge. So it can be done, but I'm just, I don't know how a private insurance company, I don't think I've ever heard of Provenge being administered under private insurance. So I just have no experience with that at all.
Okay, well, I will report back, hopefully successfully, my next PSA test. And my PSA most recently, 1 week after the robotic surgery was rose from 0.12 to 0.15, since went to 0.30, and more recently 0.38. So there's 3 successive rises. I am also going to have a test this Friday for the latest PSA in advance of my meeting with the oncologist next Tuesday. So we changed out the prednisone with dexamethasone in the hopes that it will further control the Zytiga.
And we don't know. We don't have that result yet, right?
Right.
And we don't know if you're ARV7 positive, correct?
Right.
Okay. I don't think Foundation Medicine reports on that, but I'm not sure.
Well, the test for that, I asked my oncologist about it, and he says, well, when we're ready to decide that you need to change a course of treatment, we will do the ARV7 test.
Okay. Well, and where do we stand on, and who is going to address with you when to introduce a PARP inhibitor? Is that going to be Ganayasan? Is that going to be Dr. Demchuk or Basser? Who's going to advise on the timing of that?
Well, that's an excellent point. Sequencing of treatment, that's the holy grail for all of us. What's the proper sequencing of treatment? PARP inhibitors are definitely in my potential future, and because I am BRCA2 positive, as you know, and other people here probably know. So PARP inhibitors are there, and the Provenge, I don't think it stands alone. It will either include a continuation of Zytiga and or maybe me having to change to Xtandi, but I understand there'll be something with the Provenge. Maybe it's the PARP inhibitor, I don't know. But yes, that's definitely a question for next Tuesday's day at the hospital.
Right, and Demchuk said to you to hold off on the PARP inhibitor, did she not, if I'm remembering correctly?
Demchuk didn't necessarily say to hold off. It was a question that I posed to her after my meeting her at the UPenn, who, those of you who don't know, she's, as Rick had suggested that I follow up with, as being one of the top researchers and oncologists for BRCA2 positive patients. My email to her, which I think I may have shared with you, Rick, but I said, well, there's olaparib, there are 4 other PARP inhibitors of various stages of clinical trial, and my question to her, well, which one do you think I should try? And she did not have an answer for me. She just said they're all still in clinical trials. There's nothing definitive to say which one would do better for you or not. My oncologist was leaning towards olaparib because that's the one that I think has had the most amount of research on it compared to the others.
But did Demchuk suggest when you should start a PARP inhibitor?
Yes, when I become castrate resistant. She said that's one of the very first questions I should ask the oncologist.
Okay, so she's saying don't start it until you're castrate resistant, and we could we could say it would appear you might be castrate resistant right now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, the only thing, as you know, and you've talked a lot with Professor Bill, is that, you know, he got good time out of his PARP inhibitor.
Yes.
And like I say, as you know, I've got connections with three of the four, I think, or maybe all four. No, I don't have any olaparib connections, but I have connections for the other three PARP inhibitors. So even if they're
including
not
the latest Pfizer, talazoparib?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. I just got a nice binder in the mail today from them, from Pfizer.
Yeah, they asked us, myself and Joel Nowak and a third guy, they asked us to review the trial and to give our feedback. This was a couple of years ago. They paid us for it, but they took forever. Poor Rob. It must have taken a couple of months of his life because they were so difficult to work with. But Mike Zincone, I know quite well. In fact, I will probably call him and see if I can see him when I'm in New York. But I'm not saying we can get it, but I'm just saying we do know the people for talazoparib, we know the people for rucaparib, and we know the people for niraparib.
Yeah, and interesting with talazoparib is that one of the clinical trials is actually at the Rutgers Cancer Institute. I asked my oncologist about it, and he said, well, they're not looking for any more participants. It's closed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to get them to change the protocols. But what may not be hard might be to get it on compassionate allowance or whatever the new law is that Trump introduced, which makes these new drugs available more easily. I have no experience with the new law, but I know it was passed last year. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. One of the few good things Trump has done.
Yeah. So it is accessible, and you know, I can call Zincone and ask him what to do, how we might, if you feel that talazoparib might be a better option. Yeah,
I mean that's clear. That's clearly the $64,000 question. There are these 5 or so different PARP inhibitors, most of which have been used more. And historically, with women, the talazoparib I know was just approved by the FDA again for women with breast cancer, but nothing for the men with prostate cancer as of yet. And my oncologist simply is saying there's just no specific evidence because they're so new and the trials are ongoing for him to say that the talazoparib is going to work better for me than olaparib. And I thought, well, maybe the Foundation Medicine genetic mapping will give us a clue, and he did not think that would be the case.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is that all 3 drugs are going to be prescribed off-label. Olaparib is going to be prescribed off-label. It's not approved for prostate cancer. And
right.
talazoparib...
He said that's the easiest one that we should be able to get from me. So.
Well, you know, they're all available. They're all available. If you're going to go to the insurance company, it's just as likely to approve olaparib as they are talazoparib. We don't have the evidence for any of them on prostate cancer. And the question is, which is the best one? And we don't know. And I mean, you know, there's nobody better to ask than Bill. And Bill says, I don't know. He wrote to Johann de Bono, who's the god in this field, and he hasn't gotten a reply. And we just don't know. The fact is that, you know, you're going to take more of the olaparib than you would of the talazoparib because the talazoparib's much stronger. But we've got that. I mean, they're doing tests with the rucaparib as well. And Tom Harding is on our advisory board. He's the chief scientific officer for Clovis. So, you know, I think that if the doc has to decide which one he thinks is the best for you, not based on which is the most readily available. Then we'll try and see if we can get it, and if we can't, then we'll come down and try and find it. I mean, I'm going to be with Caroline Pavis all day Thursday, and niraparib is distributed for prostate cancer by Janssen.
Right.
So if we want to try and get you niraparib, I know that Caroline will do her utmost for you.
Okay.
So it's not about what he thinks is most readily available. It's what he thinks is the best one.
And I've asked him that question, and there's no answer. There's no answer.
All right, let's go. Finally, I know we're 6 minutes over, but I do want to touch base with Jim Ward. Jim, are you still with us?
I sure am.
Have you seen Paul Korn yet, or where are you in that?
I have not yet. I'm scheduled to see him on the 19th. And I guess my question's kind of directed at that. You know, I had a really nice chat with Ken a while back.
Right.
About his experience. I don't know if Ken's still on the line or not, but you know, something that I guess I just find a little hard to believe is that so I've been working with the so-called patient rep, you know, to try to make sure that I know what's coming when I get down there, particularly with respect to, you know, gathering my records and tests and all of that stuff. And the bottom line is I've been told by the rep and somebody else at MD Anderson that, you just bring it with you. You know, bring the scans on a DICOM CD, and then, you know, all the other reports you just bring them in hard copy. And you know, to me it doesn't seem very productive as it could be if somehow I could get that stuff down there to him and he could look at it before we sit down. Otherwise, he's just looking at stuff on the fly, and I don't know. I find it really remarkable that that's how people that's how they would approach a first appointment. And I don't know what to do about it, or if anything can be done about it, because you know, it's not like I can just get Dr. Korn on the phone or whatever. So I'm a little frustrated only in the sense that, you know, look, I work in a different profession. I'm an attorney, and if I had a client and I was going to meet with a client, I would probably look at something before I met with them. But you know, I mean, just because I want to be a little bit educated, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I trained originally as a banker, and I had the best training at the time that was available from Chase Credit Training. They were the best. And the one thing I always learned is you got to read the files. And whenever I've ever mentored anybody, I've always expected them to be as knowledgeable as they can before they go into their first meeting. What I will say with these doctors who are really busy is that they seem to pride themselves in absorbing information very, very quickly. And Ken, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You are. Ken, what was your experience when you first went to see Paul in terms of getting your records to MDA?
You know, I did exactly as I said. Sent everything through the portal, you know, all the scans, and I went through a lot of work to make everything. But the problem is that he never got it. So I would have no problem with you. You can send it to him directly, but I don't know if you can send like the disk. So, because the data file is so large, I don't know if you can send it. And Paul does not wish to discuss other patients with me at all. So maybe it has privacy. I don't know, but I could ask him and he never replied. So I don't know what his take is on that. I don't know.
Look, all I can say to you is this: our experience to date with Paul. Are you still there, Jim? I see you left. I think Jim may have just gotten. I think his email, his internet may have just gone out because I just saw it pop up that he left. We'll give him a second. Carl, you put something in the chat window here. I think it was supposed to go to somebody in particular.
Yeah, actually, Len sent me something. I just responded.
Okay. Well, the answer, Len, the answer is in the regular chat window for everyone.
Okay, I see it. Yeah. No problem. I'll send it to you, Carl.
Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know what happened there with Jim. Well, I'll give him a call after we're done. We're done. So, oh, he's just come in. I think he's just come in. Is that you who's just arrived?
Yeah, I might have. As soon as you started to say something, I don't know why I dropped out of the call. So sorry, I'm back.
Don't worry. I was hoping you would be. So did you hear me say anything?
No, not a word. You were just starting.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what I'll say just very quickly is yes, I always train people to read the files, and so I empathize with you. Ken came on the line probably after you dropped off, and what he said was he sent everything to Paul through the portal, but Paul never saw it ahead of time anyway, and that you could also send stuff to Paul directly, but the files are so large, who knows if it would get through. What I wanted to start to say to you was that our experience with Paul has been excellent. And as much as I hate to say to you, take the leap of faith, I feel that when you've got his attention and he's ready to talk to you, he will absorb everything he needs to absorb. And these guys seem to be good at doing that. Does anybody else want to say anything to Jim regarding this?
Hey, Rick, I'll say one more thing. I mean, that is, I sent Jim his personal assistant, and he can put it in the mail to him if he wants to send it in advance. I wouldn't send it via email to Paul, but I'd send it to his PA.
Okay.
So a copy of the disc and his records, and she'll make sure he gets it in advance. But if he puts it on the portal, it'll never get to him.
Okay.
All right, and okay, that's a good idea. You said send it to his physician's assistant.
Right. I'll send that to you tomorrow.
Right. Ken will provide you with all of the. Ken will provide you with the contact details of the physician's assistant. I think I put it somewhere too, but I'll let Ken do that.
Okay,
so,
thanks very much.
Let me ask
thanks
you,
very much.
Ward, is that worth putting a testimonial on GreatNonProfits?
I think so.
Okay, just checking.
I was already planning to. You did. Okay. I was already planning. You didn't have
okay.
to.
Okay. I'm pulling your leg. All right. Well, and how are you feeling generally?
Oh, I'm feeling okay. I got the Lupron, the first Lupron injection on January 8th. So, I'm coming up on a month. They gave me a litany of side effects, and they talked about weight gain as a very common one. Well, I'm concerned because, since the diagnosis in late December, I've lost 5 pounds roughly, and I don't know. I'm told that it's not uncommon, but it's kind of not what I was expecting. I thought I was going to be fighting weight gain, and I just worry that that's not a good sign. But who knows?
Well, look, let me just.
Are you doing anything about muscle wasting?
I'm trying to work out, and I've always been a lifter, not a madman, but just a regular, working out with weight training, and I'm trying to do that to keep that muscle mass. I can tell it's I'm not as strong as I was, but I'm trying.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's absolutely right. I tried to lift 3 times a week when different muscle groups, but I lifted pretty religiously 3 times a week all the time I was on Lupron. And I did continue doing my aerobic exercise, and I did over time notice a significant drop in my aerobic ability. But that was, probably slow decline, and it sort of, the nadir was about 9 months out. But what I want to say to you about this muscle, about this weight loss, is that you started the Lupron the beginning of January, so you're not even 4 weeks, the 8th of January, so you're not even 4 weeks out. The first couple of weeks, your testosterone is going to go up before it goes down. So you really haven't even seen or started to see some of the side effects. And what you may start to see, and don't be surprised, is some water retention. You just are puffier. And you'll start to get hungry. At least you may start to get hungry. I don't say you will. I mean, I certainly did. A lot of guys do. You find you're hungry all the time because your metabolism is slowing down. So I wouldn't worry about you not putting on the weight gain so quickly. None of the things with LHRH drugs happen instantaneously. Very few. Some happen pretty quickly, but very few things happen quickly. It's all a gradual process. Would the guys who are still on the call agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd go for broccoli. Don't go for potato chips.
Right. I've been eating a lot of broccoli lately. Yep.
Carrots work well also.
Yeah, carrots and celery, broccoli. Once you start getting hungry, I mean, I know you're going to come 4 weeks from now and you say, I'm ravenous all the time. What the hell's going on, And then you'll put the weight back on, man, but it'll go on in the wrong places if you don't do the exercise and you don't keep up the aerobic. Look, I put on 10 pounds. I'm pretty slight, and I put on over 10 pounds. In fact, I peaked at almost 20 pounds. I don't know where it was, but I did. I think a lot of it was water. Because that's how it affects some guys. You just start retaining, and you feel you're retaining water, and then you know when you get rid of it because you can't stop peeing, and then you're normal for a while, and then you retain water again. And that's just the nature of being on the LHRH drug. So what I don't want you to do is lose any sleep about the fact that you haven't started putting your weight on yet. And it's understandable that you lost the weight because you had a lot of anxiety around this, and that's very understandable, Jim.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that as an effect. So, well, thank you. I don't want to take up any more of the group time than I have.
Okay.
But I really appreciate it.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Did you ever? Oh, I won't ask you. I'll send you a note. All right. 20 minutes over. That's not 3.5 new people. So And thank you, everybody who was willing to defer your questions until next time, which will be next Tuesday. I'm off to this event in New York on tomorrow morning early, and the event is a Prostate Cancer Foundation event on Thursday night, and we'll see who I get to see there. I'm sure I'll see my good friend Michael Milken. I say that facetiously because every time I've tried to talk to him, I get about 3 words in and then he turns away. So, yes, that's about it for today. I'll see you guys all next week, and have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good trip, Rick.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good trip, Rick.
Thanks. Bye.